Hey everybody, welcome back to my book chat channel. So this is another book review. This one is called Below by Kevin Harrison, and I am reading this on behalf of Shamrock Publishing. So let's jump into it. All right, Nick has revered his grandfather his entire life. The absent hero, his namesake, buried alive in his final act of courage, an ocean and thousands of miles away. Jess has outgrown her status as an all-action social media celebrity and the endless demands that come with it. Adventure Travel TV has thrown this unlikely duo together, promising Jess the launch pad she craves and Nick the chance to tell his grandfather's story firsthand, in the newly uncovered mine that still holds his remains from the twilight days of the gold rush. It is a dream come true or a nightmare, as someone or something stirs below. So, it doesn't really reveal too much in the synopsis, and I kind of like that for a change in pace because I find that some give in too much information, which makes it really easy to, reveal and spoil too much about books at times. But you know what? I really actually enjoyed this one. This was probably the first one in a while out of the horror genre that I can say that I really liked it, if only because it wasn't really, it was horror, but it wasn't like overly graphic. It wasn't blood and gore and guts and all in your face. I thought it was really well written that, you easily could find yourself there. You could see the environment, feel the environment. You could, go along the characters and feel like you were there along with them without the need for above and beyond graphic blood and gore. There was plenty of suspense, and I felt that it really kept me engaged during the entire part of the story. I found actually this one a little difficult to put down, where I really wanted to find out what was going to happen. And if his other books are anything like this, you can be sure that I will be looking into those and seeing if they're anything like this, because this was just fantastic. I really liked some of the history that got thrown around. I think that's the only piece actually that was lacking for me, was there just wasn't enough background to the mine itself. There was some in there, but there wasn't quite enough. And let's face it, when you're dealing with a mine, whether it's a mine, graveyard, haunted house, or anything of that kind of thing, there's almost always some kind of history to it, even if it's just one family's background history attached to the property. It may not, go back centuries, but sometimes they do. And, there's usually a what, when, where, how, all those kinds of things. And I find that the more in depth those details are, the better I enjoy the story. And usually the better the story ends up being, at least from my perspective. This one lacked definitely a little bit in that category, but from an overall perspective, I thought it was really well done. I really enjoyed the characters, and that was the other thing I really enjoyed about this. From the relationships and the connections that they divulged with the people, the relationships were done genuine. They weren't done over the top or really dramatic or in your face. There was a little bit of, your intimacy bits and pieces, but it wasn't distasteful of anything. And I find that in some stories, it can be a little over the top, especially when you get into same-sex partners. So spoiler alert, there is a couple in here that is that. And I find that a lot of stories that I've read personally, I find that they tend to overdo the drama that goes on between the two. There's plenty of drama that goes on between a dual sex partnership, but I find that just like I said, based on the books that I've read, they tend to go a little above and beyond with the same sex ones, and it just usually ends up leaving a bit of a bad taste in my mouth. And this one didn't do that. As far as I'm concerned, it was the same all across the board. There was just enough detail and just enough drama to make it an overall well-rounded story. So I really liked the twist at the end and what kind of goes along with that. And I would definitely recommend reading this one. So this one for me would definitely be a 5 out of 5 stars, if only because, I actually could see myself reading this one again. And if there ends up being any kind of a sequel or a continuance of any kind, I don't think there would be, because the book, the way that it ended, doesn't imply that. But it would still be one that I would reread and or pick up more if there was more to come in the future. So yeah, that is again Below by Kevin Harrison. So I thank you all so much for tuning in, and I will be back soon with another book review. Happy reading.